Okay, we are reading excerpts from Village Life in America, 1852 to 1872 by Caroline Cowles Richards of Canandaigua, New York. Um, Now, just remember that these are excerpts of a journal that she kept starting when she was 10 years old. Um, at times, she wrote more consistently than other times. She skipped around. Sometimes she'd go months without having anything written. Sometimes she'd write things every day. And then out of that stuff in the book, I have selected only certain excerpts of that. So it's not necessarily the whole thing. The whole thing is available. So starting 1852, age 10, November 21st, 1852. I am 10 years old today, and I think I will write a journal and tell who I am and what I am doing. I have lived with my grandfather and grandmother Beals ever since I was 7 years old, and Anna too, since she was 4. Our brothers James and John came too, but they are at East Bloomfield at Mr. Stephen Clark's academy. Miss Laura Clark of Naples is their teacher. So, just a little quick FYI, their mom died when they were young. Their dad is in and out of their lives, kind of. He's not real. He's in New Orleans for a while. He's at various places. He comes and goes. So they're being raised by their grandparents, their grandfather and grandmother Beals. And she is, um, Caroline is 10. She's been there for 3 years already. And Anna is must be 7 at the time, and she has been there since she was 4. So she's 3 years older than her sister Anna. Anna, Anna and I go to school at District Number 11. James C. Cross is our teacher, and some of the scholars say he is cross by name and cross by nature. But I like him. He gave me a book by the name of Noble Deeds of American Women for reward of merit in my reading class. Today, a nice old gentleman by the name of William Wood visited our school. He is Mrs. Nat Gorham's uncle, and Wood Street is named after him. He had a beautiful pear in his hand, which he said he would give to the boy or girl who could spell Vergaloo, for that was the name of the pear. I spelt it that way, but it was not right. A little boy named William Schley spelt it right, and he got the pear. I wish I had, but I can't even remember now how he spelt it. If a pear is as hard as the name, I don't believe anyone would want it. But I don't see how they happen to give such a hard name to such a nice pear. Grandfather says perhaps Mr. Wood will bring a secular pear some day, so I had better be ready for him. 1853, age 11, December 1st, 1853. Grandfather asked me to read President Pierce's message aloud this evening. I thought it was very long and dry, but he said it was interesting and that I read it very well. I am glad he liked it. Part of it was about the Missouri Compromise, and I didn't even know what it meant. Can you imagine someone not knowing what the Missouri Compromise was? Now remember, this is 1853, so the Compromise of 1850 has happened. The Missouri Compromise had happened 33 years before, and we're just edging up to the Kansas-Nebraska Act. So that's where we are in history. 1854, age 11. Tuesday, a gentleman visited our school today whom we had never seen. Miss Clark introduced him to us. When he came in, Miss Clark said, "Young ladies," and we all stood up and bowed and said his name in concert. Grandfather said he would rather have us go to school to Miss Clark than anyone else because she teaches us manners as well as books. We girls think that he is a very particular friend of Miss Clark. He is very nice looking, but we don't know where he lives. Laura Chapin, you may have heard of Chapin Street, says he is an architect. I looked it up in the dictionary and it says one who plans or designs. I hope he does not plan to get married to Miss Clark and take her away and break up the school, but I presume he does, for that is usually the way. April 1st. This is April Fool's Day. It is not a very pleasant day, but I am not very pleasant either. I spent half an hour this morning very pleasantly writing a letter to my father, but just as I had finished it, Grandmother told me something to write which I did not wish to, and I spoke quite disrespectfully. But I am real sorry, and I won't do so any more. Wednesday, grandmother sent Anna and me up to Butcher Street. FYI, Butcher Street is now called Granger Street. Um, Butcher Street, or maybe, yeah, Butcher Street or Butcher Street might be Chapel Street now. I get these two mixed. I believe Butcher Street is now Granger Street. Um, Anyways, grandmother sent Anna and me up to Butcher Street after school today to invite Chloe to come to dinner. I had never seen so many black people as there are up there. So, FYI, in the 1800s, the African Americans in Canandaigua, there was a large population of them that lived on Chapel Street and on Granger Street, so in the neighborhood right around the middle school. So grandmother, and by the way, Anna and Caroline live down on Main Street, down almost probably around close to where the YMCA is, up a little bit from there, but generally in that part of town. So Wednesday, grandmother sent Anna and me up to Butcher Street after school today to invite Chloe to come to dinner. I had never seen so many black people as there are up there. We saw old Lloyd and Black Jonathan and Dick Valentine and Jerusha and Chloe and Naki. Naki was pounding up stones into sand to sell to scour with. Grandmother often buys it of her. I think Chloe was surprised, but she said she would be ready tomorrow at 11 o'clock when the carriage came for her. I should hate to be as fat as Chloe. I think she weighs 300. I'm going to sit in grandmother's. She is going to sit in grandfather's big armchair, grandmother says. We told her we should think that we told her, meaning grandmother, that we think she would rather invite white ladies, but she said Chloe was a poor old slave and that grandfather had gone to Saratoga, and since grandfather had gone to Saratoga, she thought it was a good time to have her. She said God made us all of one blood, made of one blood all of the people on the face of the earth. So we knew she would do it, and we didn't have any more, and we didn't say any more. This is a good part. When we talk too much, grandfather always says NC, nuff said. I should use that. She sent a carriage for Chloe, and she came and had a nice dinner, not in the kitchen either, in the dining room. Grandmother asked her if there was anyone else she would like to see before she went home, and she said, yes, Miss Rebecca Gorham. So she told the coachman to take her down there, the coachman being the person who drives the horse and carriage, to take her down there and wait for her to make a call and then take her home, and he did. Chloe said she had a very nice time. Tuesday, September 1st. Grandfather has a teeter-totter, that is, a teeter and a swing for us in the backyard, and we enjoy them usually. But tonight, Anna slid off the teeter board when she was on the ground and I was in the air, and I came down sooner than I expected. There was a hand organ and a monkey going by, and she was in a hurry to get to the street to see it. She got there a good while before I did. The other day when we were swinging, grandmother called us to dinner, but Anna said that we could not go in till we let the old cat die, which means that the swing would stop swinging. Grandmother said it was more important that we should come in when we are called. October. Grandmother's name is Abigail, but she was always called Nabby at home. Some of the girls call me Carrie, but grandmother prefers Caroline. She told us today how, when she was a little girl down in Connecticut in 1794, she was on her way to school one morning when she saw an Indian coming, and she was so afraid, but she did not dare run for fear he would chase her. So she thought of the word sago, which means good morning. And when she got up close to him, she dropped a curtsy and said sago, and he just went right along and never touched her at all. She said she hopes we will always be polite to everyone, even to strangers. November. Abby Clark's father has been elected governor of New York State, that is, and she is going to Albany to live for a while. We all congratulated her when she came to school this morning, but I am sorry she is going away. We will write to each other every week. She wrote a prophecy, a prediction, and told all the girls what they were going to be. And she said I should be mistress of the White House. I think it will happen about the same time that Anna goes to be a missionary. December. There was a moonlight sleigh ride of boys and girls last night, but Grandfather did not want us to go. But tonight, he said he was going to take us on one himself. So after supper, he told Mr. Pizer to harness the horse and the cutter and to bring it around to the front gate. Mr. Pizer takes care of our horse and the Methodist church. He lives in our basement. Grandfather sometimes calls him Shakespeare to us, but I don't know why. He doesn't look as though he wrote poetry. Grandfather said that he was going to take us out to Mr. Waterman Powers in Farmington, and he did. They were quite surprised to see us, but very glad, and gave us apples and donuts and other good things. We saw Anne and Imogen and Maury and one little girl named Zimmy. They wanted us to stay all night, but grandfather was expecting us. We got home, but grandmother was expecting us. We got home safe about 10 o'clock and had a very nice time. We never sat up so late before. 1855. Wednesday, January 9th. I came downstairs this morning at 10 minutes after 7, almost frozen. I never spent such a cold night before in all my life. It is almost impossible to get warm in the dining room. The thermometer is 10 degrees below zero. The schoolroom was so cold I had to keep my cloak on. I spoke a piece this afternoon. It was called The Old Armchair by Eliza Cook. It begins, I love it, and who shall dare to chide me for loving that old armchair? I love it because it makes me think of grandmother. After school tonight, Anna and I went downtown to buy a writing book, but we were so cold we thought we would never get back. Anna said she knew her toes were frozen. We got as far as Mr. Taylor's gate, and she said she could not get any farther. But I pulled her along, for I could not bear to have her perish in sight of home. We went to bed about 8 o'clock and slept very nicely indeed, for grandmother put a good many blankets on and we were warm. Okay, I'm going to pause here and we'll pick it back up in part 2.